Hello. There should be music. I can't hear a thing. Sarin, can you hear me?
Yes.
Ah, okay, and I hear you. That's wonderful. Hi, Emmy.
Good evening.
Can I hear you? Can you give me? Yes.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Okay, so now I will send out the. Usually I leave the music on and I send out some more invites while that's on. Oh, lovely. Oh my God, Word Rebel. My crew is on board. Thank you so much. Sorry?
I'm sorry, I was just a moment I was distracted. I'm ready now.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Kata, for coming. Yeah, so, oh, and Ronald is here. Ronald McDonald. Um, Thank you, Rona. I just invite you so that all my speakers are in place that um, oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Emmy. We haven't quite started yet. I will send out some more, um, what's it, invites, and then we'll start.
Sounds great.
Okay, so the important people to me are here, and I put the link out. I can't be bothered to invite personally because everybody knows really. Hello, Sundight. Hello, Frella. Bookish. Hello, Pija. Wonderful. That's the names I definitely know. Um, Thanks for inviting us. I mean, it was overdue to do a WorldSpace anyway. I have been neglecting you. I'm very sorry for that. We had, a lot of things going on in Germany, so I was kind of busy and actually couldn't be bothered at some point because I was busy surviving and organizing things here. But now, because Emmy invited us, and well, Sunday did as well, but I couldn't make that appointment. But um, AP and Inge did it very well. So this is the second space on this issue, really, and I'm very happy that Emmy invited me, and well, there she is. It's really kind of your space, isn't it?
Hey, well, it's our space, but listen, also, first of all, thanks so much for doing this. I've gotten to know you over the past year, I guess, from different spaces that you've hosted and that you've participated in. And I must say, I have missed seeing you. I see your German spaces, and I drop in occasionally just to listen to your dulcet tones and see if I can understand anything, which is pretty much nothing, despite 1 or 2 semesters of college level German. But I have to give also full credit where it's due. So I was very kindly asked by Bookish and Pija to join them as part of their team for the Saturday night space that they do for I guess you would say, more of a North American audience. It's called North American Angst and deals with a lot of different topics around women's rights and child safeguarding, etc. And I've been really happy to have been welcomed in by them. And so that's a regular part of my life now on Saturday evenings, East Coast time in the US. And last Saturday's space, as we were talking about different issues towards the end of it, one of our sisters here, I guess you would say, in the movement in the US, who goes by the handle of Freya First, Bridget, she had said, I really wish we could have more American spaces or US, North American spaces during the week. To try to link together, especially in the US and Canada too, because they're both such large countries, right? So, to just bring us together and see what actions we can take, and so forth. And she was the one who said, like, look at this self ID law that's just passed in Germany. And I feel bad that we couldn't do more to support our, sisters over there before this happened. So then I sort of came stumbling in and said, wait, well, let's try and hold a space next week and talk about that and see, even though it's past, what can we do? But also, how can we better understand it? So, L Squad, of course, you were the first person that came to mind. So, I realize this is a bit of a repeat for you, but it's new for me and new for, I think, a lot of certainly the English speaking women who are joining us this evening, I think. So, yeah, thank you for that. And I guess without putting you on the spot to be the spokesperson for everything having to do with law and politics in Germany, and certainly I know you have a great crew here. I see Word Rebel, who I know, and Ronald and Kada, some other names who I've, and Sarah or Hello, some other names that I've come to know through association with you and through seeing on Twitter, X, however you want to call it. But just as a start off, I guess, can you just sort of tell us whose brilliant idea was it to push for this law, and how long has it been in the offing? I know I sort of heard rumblings in the background that Germany was toying with the idea of self ID. I didn't realize how seriously the toying was, shall we say. That's probably not the best word to use for it, but yeah, I guess if you can just give us a sense of how long has this been kind of brewing in the background, and how did the final push come for it? And I will tell you, and I apologize up front, if I'm not really greatly versed in American law and the finer details of it, and the political movement more at the grounds level, I'm even less well versed in German law and politics, other than a vague sense of, sort of the larger parties and stuff, and those wacky Greens. Yeah, let me leave it with that first question, and certainly at any point, if you want to have any of your other sisters here jump in, please feel free to do so. But I think a lot of us, well, let's just assume some of us at least are starting from a point of not knowing an awful lot about this.
Thank you very much for your kind words. Well, that's why I brought Rona, to be honest, and Word Rebel, because they are the ones who are really in the issue if it comes to details. Because I'm one of those, I know basically what's going on, and I'm a connector, if you want. But for the life of me, I can't remember the details in the laws, that kind of thing. So, but generally speaking, um, your first question was, when did it start? I correct me if I'm wrong, Rona, but I think it started in 21. I think in 21 it was that I did the first um, that well, they wanted to pass it then. They wanted to introduce the law, and we managed to stop them. I think that was in 21. And because I remember that was the first time that I was civilly in disobedient, and I stood there with some women, and we had like um, placards, and we were stopped by the police and said, "Oh, you must not, like you must not get together here without." having announced it, and then I said, okay, I do it now, that kind of thing. Well, anyway, so that's quite a while. And then the new government, when was it introduced? I think in 21. And then um, they pushed it all those years, and they were relentless um, in gathering their um, folks together and pushing it through without the people knowing. Um, Still, there are many people in this country who have not heard about it at all, or who have information like, meanwhile, we were, and I have to say, well, you say I'm the go-to. No, it's actually Rona because she's in it much longer than I am, and she's been doing all the uh, hard work where nobody knew, right? And she's been going out there and saying, hey, well, look what's going on here. And she's been very, very busy. And when I got to know her, I got into it. And then, like there was Let Women Speak in English and Let Women Speak, who is Rona kind of. And so I got onto it as well. So now I'm in it. But I just want to say that's the history. Um, I'm I'm a younger one, okay, just for the record. And well, anyway, they started um, the trans lobby is very strong here, and we've been subject to attacks by them. They really try to stop us from talking, to pointing out what's going on and what the self ID law means. Um, Sorry, I'm a bit distracted. 1 second. I have to get Saren back. Uh,
I think I
okay.
think I tried approving her too. Oh, there we go. She's back.
Uh, yeah, yeah. I just sorted it out. Anyway, so um, what started in definitely in 21, if not before, that they started uh, in the media, they started to push the idea and they showed us soppy films about young kids, like at the age of 4 or 5, who always knew they were trans, and they are feeding it, like to to us, like, oh, this is a good thing, and those poor kids, and da, 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 da. At the same time, they were organizing their way to get um, push through their agenda in the government, and it's all the three parties in the government. That's the Greens, that's the FDP, that who's the Free Democrats, and the SPD, who are the socialists. Well, socialists. Well, it's in their name, but they're not really. And they, when they founded the coalition, they agreed that they will push it through. That's part of their agreement when they started bonding because they wanted to be a government. So the parties couldn't really get out of that. They couldn't really argue properly. And last year they started. And well, there was no debate. I'm trying to sort my thoughts. There was no debate, of course, yeah, and they still try to do no debate. But what then happened was that Marie-Louise, you remember Marie, the biologist from Germany, who has been in the press for quite a while now. In 22, she was cancelled when she wanted to do what's it called? Um, can't think of the word now, a lecture, a lecture on, um, well, two sexes in biology, very basic biological information. And she was cancelled for transphobia because she wouldn't say human beings are more than two sexes. And that's when we rallied and said no, because this is suppression of the science. You know, it's not just that a feminist gets shut down, it's suppressing science. And since that day, that was the 2nd of July 22. I know that because it's my dad's birthday. Um, since that day, no debate is over. That's when well, now poor Marie is still in the limelight, kind of. She's still getting attacked, um, but it's out there, and the some media picked up the information and kind of talked about it. And this talking about it was the first step to the society to know what's going on. And ever since that day, we were doing rallies and we were, like informing people on our home pages and in personal talks. And we wrote to some of the women wrote to the government, to the, like people in government, and said, no, no, no. Then the government started and said, okay, we realize that there is hmm, some, we need to talk, right? So pretended to organize um, groups where the government talked about the problems with the self ID, and they wanted input from different organizations. Fun fact, all the radical feminists, all the lesbian groups who are still lesbian, because there are many lesbians in Germany who are men now. The lesbians basically don't exist anymore, right? But all the groups who try to fight the self ID or said, please, let us talk about it. There are problems for women's safety in certain, environments. We have to talk about it. All those groups were neglected. They were pushed out. They weren't part of this queer, we talk about it program. All of them. From Professor so and so to, well, I don't know, Dr. Women, accomplished feminists who would have something to say, they were pushed out. They weren't asked. And so what they managed is to get uh, to push it through and say, oh, there is no problem, because there is nobody saying there's a problem, right? Do you see what I mean? It's disgusting. And we were preparing, so last year we knew that it's going to happen, because yeah, I don't know how to explain the process, how laws are passed in Germany. Anyway, they they write a law, they put it to the people in the Bundestag, and they have to decide on it. They have a hearing, so called, and you have to have three of those until a law can pass. So they had the first hearing where they debate, and we knew, oh, it's getting serious now. And then we knew that the second and third debate will end up in passing the law, most likely, if we can't get enough um, people in the government to vote against it. So we put a lot of pressure. We wrote to the people. We organized in the background. We organized that on the day when third, the second and third debate will be, which was last week Friday. um, we organized so that we will be there the day. So we have been waiting to do this demo for 3 months. We've been like sitting there on our bags, ready to go. And and what they did then there was a lot. It was very quiet. Nobody debated. Nobody talked about it. We thought, oh, this is like, this is quite strange. Nobody talks about it so much. Even the trans activists on Twitter and so, there was a funny quietness about the issue. And then suddenly, bam, on Tuesday they said we will do the debate on Friday. And then we knew, oh, okay, so there they go. And yeah, then we had to rally all women from Germany. They have to get there if they want to support us. And so from Tuesday till Friday, that was the only time we had to rally those women. And they had to stop their jobs. They had to find people who work for them if they had, like jobs where they couldn't leave otherwise. They had to drop their studies, they had to drop everything. And, like buy a ticket, which is more expensive when you can't prepare, all those things. And they fucking came. It was a party. Honestly, we knew that we wouldn't prevent it. We kind of knew that. But I can tell you, on Friday we were about 100 women. One of them was Rona, and it was absolutely, for me, that was a party. That was a party that showed strength because we had basically 3 days to prepare, or five, four. So thank you to everybody who was there. And you, English speaking bubble, you were great. I wrote to the Warriors and I said, oh my God, now it's getting serious on Friday. And they answered an hour later and they said, oh, we're very sorry, we can't make it. They were actually thinking about flying in to support us. But just the thought, honestly, ladies, you don't have to come here from New York. You don't have to come here from Vancouver. But your words mean the world to me, and that you worry, that you want to hear what we say. Um, don't travel. You need your money and your energy. We do our job here. We manage. But thank you just for the idea of, oh, maybe I could. That really did something to me, and I passed it on into the group. We were very happy about that. Thank you. So that was the kind of short cut. I don't know if Rona or Saren or Word want to add something. Um, I stop for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Al Squad. Yeah, I mean, please, if any of the other women from Germany who are here, who are speakers, would and co-hosts would like to jump in, please do. And I guess also just to understand a bit more about, I guess, German attitudes towards this. And again, sorry, El Squad and the other women here. This is not to put you in the position of explaining the sociology and so forth and the anthropology of the modern German mindset, but just for comparison, I think in the U.S. and I think if I could say also, for example, in the U.K. and Canada, there's a liberal belt of the country or liberal pockets of the countries that seem to be completely down with everything gender having to do with gender ideology, and very often that seems to come from a place of giving people the benefit of the doubt, let's say, wanting to so-called be kind, but not really understanding what it means in terms of amputation of body parts and what it does to children and the impact that it has on lesbian and gay communities and so forth. Maybe if any of you can just give us a sense of kind of how is it in Germany? Is it the same? Is it maybe the cities are more liberal and think, yeah, this is all great. This is like an extension of just sort of the gay community, and maybe the countryside, the more rural areas are more conservative, or I don't know. I mean, I have to say, as someone with family in Europe and having been raised in the US, when we look at Germany, we tend to think of you guys as kind of quite liberal kind of anything goes, and as long as it doesn't hurt anybody, you do you kind of thing. But that's a broad generalization. So I don't know if any of you want to maybe just jump into the conversation. I see Kata, you have your hand up. Please, please do. And Soren, just to give us a sense, maybe for those of us who haven't been to Germany in ages or maybe ever, yeah, where is this kind of coming
I,
from? Thank you.
I just want to tell you quickly, Kata, you can take over because I know you can answer that. Um, she's my left, my what do you call it? Right hand. Kata was the one supporting the demo last week because I couldn't be there on time, and she took over. Um, Saludos. I couldn't have done it without her. So there were other groups, but my part was covered by Kata, and I'm very, very happy about that. So thank you very much, Kata.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. And yeah, just a brief overview for those who are not familiar with the governmental structure in
Can't
Germany.
hear you,
Um,
Kata.
you can't hear me. Can anybody else hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
I
we
can hear
can.
you.
Okay, I'll go out and in again, and I'll be right back.
I can't. I'm sorry.
She
Yeah,
But if you,
Elspeth, she will go
I'll be
out.
right back.
She will go out and come
No,
back.
Alfred is the
good.
host.
So
She's the host.
can Sarin take over for the time being, please?
Yeah, okay. Um, yeah, when it comes to different states here in Germany, normally, general speaking, we have the south with where more the south is more Catholic, and the northern and the eastern parts Protestant. And it's said that the south is more conservative, and the north is, especially here where I live, in not far from the Danish border, we are more Scandinavian-like and more liberal. But I think that's only general speaking. The problem here in Germany is that the issue, the topic, has reached the mainstream only lately. Now that the law has passed our parliament, you can suddenly see more articles in newspapers, at least in newspapers. The media, the news, the TV, still follows the old line, which is pro gender ideology. But in the newspapers, you can now read articles that they have taken notice of that law, and suddenly it's like they noticing, oh, what kind of shit is that? And now these you can see there are more and more articles that are critical with this law. But before, so many feminists, like also Rona, who's here in space, and so many other feminists, they have been talking and writing about this topic almost 24 hours a day, and nobody seems to have noticed that. And that's the problem. And only now that the law, that we can say that. Um, that yeah, the damage is done. Now it seems that there's a general awakening, and I think that will still continue once that the law will become valid by 1st November, and that will then start. We will. I think it will be beginning of problems when suddenly people notice in daily life what an impact that has. Likewise, if as a woman you're in a sauna or in a fitness center and suddenly you have to share your space with men, and you cannot, and when you complain about it, they will tell you no, but this man says he or she is a woman, and that's why we cannot pick this person out of the room or the space. Or like with even schools, they are really trying to promote this queer ideology. And since we also have schools where are dominantly children are also from families with a migration background, like, or with a Muslim background. I think that's also the point where problems will start and where the public will notice what impact this law has on all parts or on all sides of life. because until now many people, I think, just think it won't affect me because that's just for gays, for lesbians, and for gays, and that will not come into my life. But I think soon, this law, once it becomes effective, many more people will notice that it's all the details that are still not known will also become known, I think. And what people do not have in mind, I think, is the question with the trans kid, that they may transition and they may have surgeries, and they may take hormones, and that even 5-year-olds will be asked whether they agree to their transition, which is totally against the common knowledge, or um, common knowledge, and in common culture. And I think that will all come out now, and unfortunately too late, because we have, in our last space, we discussed already to cancel, or to even to make amendments to this law will be really difficult, because the implementation has already taken a long time. And on the other way, if you want to cancel or amend this law, it's the same difficult path um, to have these amendments made, as it's going through all this political process. That will be a long way. So yeah, now Kata is back. Perhaps she could say some more things.
Kata, please. And thank you, Saren. That was really helpful. Kata,
Yeah, yeah. Can you hear me now?
I can.
Yes,
Elskoi, can you hear her?
thank you, Kata.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Um, yeah, I just wanted to go a bit to the governmental structure. I don't know if Sarin did that. Um I think she did not, but because I didn't catch the first of what she said. But you have to imagine, Germany is like Germany's a federation. So a bit like in the US, we have a central government, and then we have something that we call Bundesstaaten, that would be like the states, um, that do decide a lot of laws for themselves. So the self-ID law by now is a federal law, so it will apply to the whole country. Um, but other things, and specifically education, and what exactly has to be in school books and stuff like that, is to a certain extent decided on state level. So there is, when it comes to education and how much you find this in schools and stuff like that, there is a, a big difference between Berlin, which I would consider the most quote unquote liberal city, in comparison to maybe Munich, which would be quote unquote conservative. Um, so that is maybe interesting to know. So it depends a bit on that, how much this goes into society. Because yeah, in Berlin, it's actually quite complicated to find people who would openly oppose this law. They either don't know about it, and it's interesting how many don't know about it, um, or even if they oppose it, they would not say so, um, because that can ruin a career. Um, which is a bit different in especially Bavaria, where politicians um, at least slightly oppose this. And mm, so I'm just making an example on how much people do not know about this. Um, uh, I was um, I was on I was meeting Esport yesterday, and we were meeting some on a different matter. We were meeting two people in a cafe, and we talked to them about self ID. And one of those was or is he still is he is a student at a major university in Berlin. and he did not know about this issue. He was not aware of it. So the no debate strategy actually did work quite well in the way that the discussion came so late, um, that it never really reached all the cracks and corners of society, and it did not even reach the universities. I have to say the person we met is a man, so he was like, "Oh, okay, I have not seen it from this perspective," um, but still, the discussion was like boiling on very low heat, and there is like, how do I put this? Like people just don't have a clue what this means.
But he used,
They, it's
he
not,
said cis, he
yeah,
said
yeah.
about himself that he's a cis man. So he used the lingo, but he did not know what was
He
going
used
on.
the lingo, but he had no idea. He had no idea, and he was like, the moment we sat down with him and explained a bit, he immediately understood. Like he immediately saw the problem. He was, oh yeah, good that you tell me, this stuff, um, and this, but the other thing is, how do I say this? The thing is, it's like, yeah, as you said, he was using the lingo,
Kata, please
so it's
try.
sneaking into
Kata,
people. Yeah,
but you're losing connection at times. Maybe please move somewhere where you have better connection.
I can't. I'm living in the woods. Connection's bad everywhere.
Okay, we will we will be patient. Sorry for interrupting. Go on.
No, no, no problem. I was kind of finished. I was just wanted to say that, as Elspeth said, like the ideology is like, yeah, how do you say? It's creeping into the minds of people, but without transporting the information on what it really means. So people use the language, people view rainbows favorably, and stuff like that, but they have no actual clue, and that's the problem, I think.
Yeah.
Kata, thank you for that. I have a question about the actually what is contained in the law, but I see that just coincidentally at this very moment also Rona has her hand
Yeah,
up and
ask
no,
ask Rona.
okay, so
Exactly.
yeah,
I
because
just wanted to say that. I wanted to talk about it, but if Rona speaks, I will take the back seat.
Rona,
Oh,
please do
yeah,
go ahead.
okay. Can you hear me? Because I have a headset, so I don't
Yes,
know if you can hear me. Yeah, okay.
We
beautiful.
can.
Hello, all together. I still have this Ronald as my name, but my real name is Rona. I changed my name to make some kind of yeah, fun about the situation at the moment in Germany, and I am at the moment I'm tweeting as a man sometimes. So yeah, I also wanted to talk about the situation in Germany concerning feminism, because I think a big problem in Germany is that we have so little feminist awareness, and that we have for some years now some very big influencers who say they are feminists, but who in reality are anti-feminists, and who are doing a kind of intrusion into feminists to destroy feminism, to destroy it. And they are very active on social media. They write a lot of books. They write in newspapers. They have positions in newspapers where they write columns. I think, I don't know how you say it in English, also Kolumnen. And so the image of the normal people is that feminism is somehow a kind of all-inclusive movement, and women are only minority in this movement, and women have to care about men. Shortly to say. And I think that the Germans are very, yeah, how to say it? They are very open, not really being for women. You have to think about that we have for a long time now legal prostitution in Germany. So women's situation is really hard. We have a very strong men's rights movement in Germany, a very strong fathers' rights movement also. And they also intrude in politics through the FDP, for example, through the liberals. And they do it for many years now. And sometimes you can think that they put these women in positions, these liberal feminists, so to say, in positions where they also work on destroying the feminist movement and the feminist awareness, especially the feminist awareness. It is somehow some bad thing to work for women and girls in Germany. I think it's not only a thing in Germany, but I think in Germany it's especially hard to stand for women and girls. And I did it some years before, especially for mothers. And you could feel how they were intruding also the mothers scene. There were a lot of women in the mothers scene who came with this trans child narrative. And this trans child narrative worked very well it was a kind of empathy thing, I think. So nobody wanted really to ask questions, because if you ask questions, they said to you, you don't know about it, and don't talk so hard about those poor kids. They have such a hard life, and you don't know anything about it. You are only a graphic designer, so how dare you talk about it? You don't have a trans child. And I always ask, how can you really say it's okay to give a child of an age of 4 or something, or think about giving him puberty blockers? And they didn't want it. Even if I asked these questions in private discussions, they didn't really want to realize what this means. So I don't know what this is in Germany. If it's something we have for years for I don't know, because if you think about Hirschfeld or these other doctors, a lot of them were in Germany, were doing these experiments in Germany. And so I think this has a long history in Germany. And I learned that this Harry Benjamin Foundation, which was the former foundation before the WPATH, also was a German. And the Germans everywhere, if you look in the history of this movement, the Germans pop up everywhere. So I just think we have a responsibility, a key responsibility for this development. And we also have a very, very weak feminist movement, which is now luckily getting stronger, because more and more women begin to understand what it means that the word woman is taken away by fetishistic men. And I think it also helps to see how women are treated if they say, no, we are the women. Because we had some judicial cases last year, especially, and the year before. The hardest case was the case of Marie-Louise Vollbricht. I don't know how she survived it. It was so dire. It was so hard, and they still mock her. They don't stop. It's I don't know how she can bear it. And they also attacked me, but not as so intense like Marie. They always go on women who show their faces, who show their name, who show their faces, and ask questions and ask in the right direction, I think. So this is what I wanted to say. And I think also the feminist organizations, we have also to say all feminist organizations are now men's rights organizations. All feminist organizations now support transgender ideology in Germany, and also support for example, egg donation, surrogacy, and something like this, because they are also thinking about legalizing egg donation and surrogacy. And we have a feminist organization of lawyers called Juristinnenbund, and they, at the moment, they deliver the law, or they deliver the arguments to legalize egg donation in Germany. And we also have an ethics council. You have to think about it. In Germany, we have an ethics council where medicine ethics say it's okay that, or say that children can give consent to these treatments. So we are really fucked up, I think. So I think I talked about something else than you asked, but I think this is very, very important to learn about the weak feminist awareness in Germany, and how hard it is to turn the tide and to show women it's okay to stand up for yourself, and to show girls it's okay to stand up for yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rona.
That's so clear. L Squad, go ahead. You had your hand up.
Yeah. No, it's fine. I just wanted to say to Rona, don't sell yourself short. I mean, you are under constant attack as well. I mean, it's God. And she can't shut up. You're right. She, for the life of her, she can't shut up, and neither can Marie. So they people are reminded of them all the time. But honestly, I mean, we always look out for those two, because they really are under constant attack from um, somewhere. So I just wanted to add something what uh, I find very unnerving in the new law is one thing is, Taran mentioned it before, that kids at the age, well, basically the parents should be able to um, tell their kids um, gender. So a child is born and they can say, if I got it right, they can say, um, okay, I always wanted a boy. This girl is a boy, right? So um, that's not good. At the age of 4, they can, at the age of 5, I think it was, they can agree to it or disagree, whatever that may lead to a child disagreeing to the parents. Forget it. Um, at the age of 14, they can start the social transition, and if the parents don't agree, they can get support from the government, right? Um, and the parents are out of the process. Uh, then what I find a bit, we said, okay, if an offender, but whatever, sexual offender, or like robber or whatever, if they say, mm, I want to be a woman now because I want to hide, um, they can do that. If I understand this law right, they can do that. We wanted at least that if a man says I'm a woman now, that the information in the police, in at like at those points where the government can follow up on a person, um, that they know, and they've got data, so they can um, guess, okay, Peter Peter is now Emily. Um, they can't do that because we've got this Offenbarungsverbot. That's another thing, that you must not, if you meet Peter after 30 years and you say, hello, Peter, but he is Emily now, you can get fined for it, right? But on top of that, they don't want the government places um, to know that Emily was Peter. So, what that could possibly lead to, I have no idea. But it scares me because then how easy would it be to go to rob a bank? They know it was a man. This man goes, has his papers and everything changed, and then he's Emily, and nobody will be able to find him because you can't even talk about it. It is madness. I can only it's so horrific. I think. Um, I hope that we're just a bit paranoid, but these kinds of paragraphs in the law, they make me really nervous. Plus, Sarah mentioned it before, the young kids at school get um, the education. The schools are rainbow now. And the other day, I had a woman in the space. She didn't want to disclose who she was or who she's working for, but apparently she works for a big company. And if they don't accept trans people and they say, oh, I don't want to be on a unisex toilet with you or whatever, that kind of thing, they get asked to go to, what's it called? Can't even think of the German word, to classes. They have to go to classes for indoctrination.
Re-education.
Re-education classes, that's it. Thank you, Kata. Re-education classes. They actually started doing that in Germany. I didn't even know that, but it's apparently happening. So when the law will pass, we will not be able to utter a word. And well, Rona mentioned it. They are coming for our eggs. They're coming for our eggs. They're coming for our women as breeding organisms, and there is no stopping them. There is you can't. It's. I feel like you can't stop them. They want to change the Grundgesetz. What's the word? Help me, please.
Constitution.
Constitution. They want to change one article in the Constitution, which would make it even less possible to well, it's the article where it says nobody can must be um, oh God, I can't think. I'm sorry. Kata, can you explain
People
it?
shall not be. Yeah, people shall not be discriminated against on the basis of race. Um, yeah, that's race, sex, uh, ethnical origin, and there's a few other things. And I think you can go on from here.
Yeah, and from there, exactly. Thank you very much. I don't know what's wrong with my brain. Anyway, so if they put in their gender identity, which is their plan, we're absolutely fucked. Okay, that will be it, because once it's in the constitution, it's hard. It's hard to change it. So they might not be successful, but if that happens, you can't get it back out. Some freedom in our constitution, freedoms can't be cut away. Do you know what I mean? It's like that. It's Germany after all. So I'm really, really worried about the things that are going down in Germany. And it's not just the self ID law, which is the first step on the way of whatever they're planning. To be honest, I'm really, really worried. And we will not stop fighting against all that bullshit. We've been we've been fighting for the right of women to abort for decades. I mean, decades. And now they're coming around and saying, "Oh well, um, let's talk about abortion. We have to make it kind of more legal." And my hair stands on end because this government, whenever they say they do something for women, I can guarantee you they're fucking us over galore. And where that comes from, there is surrogacy, and all the other things like pornography. Let's not talk about it. Um, they call it sex work. You know, um, um, we are the brothel of Europe. Yeah, I mean, they claim to be to make policies that make us more free. And I actually feel, and I'm 62 for all those people who don't know me. The first time in my life, I get the sense of something very, very bad is going on in this country, which I would call totalitarianism. They are pushing ideas down our throats, and they even say, we want to change the way people live, whether they like it or not, kind of, because we know better. We want everybody to be free. It's 1984. I can tell you, it's 1984. Watch out what's going on in your countries. Watch out what's going on here. It's dystopian. Thank you, Savin.
Yeah, I also wanted to add something when it comes to awareness. Normally, I always thought that, especially among lesbians, which are actually at the front row when it comes to attacks, at least that lesbians have a certain awareness or are feminists by simply being lesbians, because being a lesbian is already a political issue, because you do not center men in your life, so that's already non-conform. But I'm quite deceived to notice that even lesbians have sometimes absolutely no idea of what it means to be feminist or what feminism is about. And for example, I have just talked on the phone yesterday with a friend. She's lesbian, and she lives in Berlin, in Prenzlauer Berg. So that's really in the center of Berlin. And she had not heard anything about this law. I said, have you noticed or heard that this law passed? And she said, no. What is this? And I was really I thought, well, also even in our group, in the gay lesbian groups and movement, there seems to be a lack of awareness. Although we are the ones, at least in the front row, and even there is a total lack of awareness, and there's also a divide. If there's a awareness, then there's a divide. There are still there are gay and lesbians who absolutely follow along the lines of the queer ideology, and there are others who just keep quiet, and others probably also have a lack of understanding, especially the younger ones, who are following this queer ideology, and it's a really sad story. Um, that there's such a low awareness of what's going on. I'm sometimes it makes me depressive.
Saren, thank you. I hear what you're saying. It's alarming, especially when you sort of see that the house is on fire, but people are just sitting around having cups of tea and they don't seem to notice. And so two things, because I certainly don't want to hold all of you hostage just for myself. So please, if there are, women in the space who have questions or a comment that you'd like to raise, please, ask to speak and we'll bring you up. And in the meantime, the one question that has come to mind regarding all of this, and this is, kind of a political difference from the EU and Germany versus, for example, the US. So, of course, we have this free speech guarantee. But I know between the GDPR in the EU and everything else, I'm just wondering, and German law, I'm just wondering for all of you, while women are forming other questions or comments, if they'd like to come up and speak, I'd just like to ask any of you here, what's the situation then regarding your own speech, for example, on social media or in a public sphere? I mean, we've seen what just happened in Scotland, and that seems to thankfully have been a bit of a damp squib, as they say. Like it just kind of fell flat in many ways, thanks to a lot of brave people, a lot of brave women coming out, and of course, this big umbrella that J.K. Rowling put up. But how is the situation in Germany? Do you feel safe commenting on social media publicly or in other spheres? What's the reality? Rona, please.
No, you can't feel safe, especially when you are visible as a woman with a real name. I can say for myself, I am doing this for, I think, especially arguing against transgender ideology. I think I do it about 4 or 5 years now. And since last year and the year before, they really started to report me to police over and over again. And I had to defend myself several times with a lawyer. And so, yeah, you now with this self-ID law, they feel legitimized, I think, to worsen this behavior. And I must say, some of us are really afraid and are really thinking about what will we do? Will we stay in the open, or will we go in the underground or something like this? What is legal anymore? Because we are target for them. They are not at all targeting Islamistic dudes who really go and box them or something like this, who are really violent against them, but they are going against women. And so, yeah, some of us are courageous and want to force to be reported to police and be fined, because then they can do judicial cases in Germany like in other countries and challenge the law. But I must say, I had this last year and it's not so funny. I also had a summons for identification purposes in November. They wanted to have my fingerprints and something like this. And you have to imagine, I am a woman writing tweets. And I can be found. My name is known. They also can find my address. It's not a problem if I write something bad that they find me, but they still wanted to take my fingerprints and do photos of me. So this is a kind of state pressure, I think, to make me afraid. And I had to fight against it with my lawyer again. This always costs money, energy, and something like this. And not every woman can bear this. And every woman who sees what's happening to me also gets afraid, I think. So my attitude towards these attacks always was, I don't really want to do it, but what I don't have a chance, because if I would say I hide myself and don't go against it, then I say they are right, and I don't think they are right. They want to they think that I'm a criminal, and they want that everyone else thinks that I'm a criminal. It's something like with the suffragettes or something like this. I am not a criminal. And so, yeah, but it's really hard to go through this. And I don't want to repeat it again and again. I also have children and I also have my work to do. So some of us also go back in their private lives and don't fight any longer. Donna, for example, from Austria, has reduced her engagement. I totally understand. She has a very young boy, and so it's really hard to do this fight. But I also think we have to do it because for me it was especially very good because I had press coverage, media coverage when I had this summons, and so this was a really good pressure tool against what was happening to me. Mostly women feel ashamed if this is happening to them. Imagine if my clients read this. Some of my clients read these articles, but some didn't say anything, and some called me or wrote me a mail and said, "We are on your side." So I'm really thankful. And I think we have to push it in public so that more people see what is happening, what they are doing, that it's not right what they are doing. And I think this will backfire because it will backfire concerning tolerance, for example. And my fear is that it will especially backfire on lesbians and gays. And so, yeah, I think this is a big, big problem because the tension in society grows more and more, and the aggression grows more and more. You also can feel that these trans activists got more aggressive since last Friday. They are more aggressive than before. You should think they are yeah, content now and say, okay, if we're fine, we got what we want. But I think this law says to them, it's right what you are doing. You are right to go aggressively against women and go on. And you have to imagine that this fine they can this fine of 10,000 euro for calling a man or for saying his real name will also be threatening their own families now. Before it was only for strange people like me, like other TERFs, and now it's also for their own family, for their own children, for their own wives. They can say, you are not allowed to say that I'm your father. If you do it, I can sue you. So it's a red carpet for these very, very aggressive extremists. I call them extremists.
And that's what they are, aren't they? I mean, they after the law passed last week, the first the first guy came on and said now they want to push it through that the operation, the um, yeah, will be covered by our insurances, which would mean that every woman who wants to have her breast chopped off and every man who wants to have an operation, uh, that will have, well, that will be covered by the insurances. That's not really, they fight for being sane and healthy human beings, but at the same time, they push it through that we pay for their medical, you know, the health, issues, which means we will have to pay a lot of money for these operations, and we know that it's not one. It's if it comes to men, I think Exulansic at some point put out figures like um, 15 for men, 20 for women, or something like that. And that includes, um, operations, surgery that has gone wrong. So, um, and all the following operations that need to be done because they're in a bad shape, right? So, 15, I think it was 15 and 20. So, figure it out, you know, do the math. And they won't stop. They will not stop. They are in our kindergartens already. I know one woman here in Berlin who told me the other day, and I was really shocked. I asked her twice, and she said she has got a neighbor whose kids came home the other day, and they said, "Ah," and they are like 4 and 7, something like that. And they came home and they said, "Oh, we've been taken to a nice room today, and we learned how to please ourselves." And I was, "What the fuck?" And the family, who are, well, apparently a Muslim family, they took the kids out of the kindergarten. The woman can't um, stay at her job because she has to watch the kids now, because they said, "Mom, we're not having that. We don't allow our kids to go to kindergarten if this is happening." And it is happening. And people don't believe us. They say we're witches, we're completely gaga, and we are telling horrible stories to push our own agenda. But unfortunately, it is true. It's happening in Germany. Um, Mind you, there are a lot of pedophiles, and we've got a problem with pedophiles um, forever, especially in the Green Party. They are pro pedophilia. They come pop up now and they say kids have got the sexuality, and no, they haven't. They haven't. Uh, and yeah, it's horrible. I honestly, when I hear myself talking, I don't want to look in the future. But well, we will have to fight.
Elsquid, I'm just wondering, one question that comes up is what do you think will wake people up? So in the US, for example, one thing that people have suggested that maybe really catches attention because so many people here are big sports fans is seeing someone like William Thomas competing with women swimmers. This big hulking 6 foot, whatever, 2 inches through 5 inches, however tall he is, guy. I mean, what do you think is something that will really catch German people's attention where they'll say, whoa, wait a minute, I didn't realize this is what we were talking about? Soren, please.
I don't like to. No, I'm sorry. You are Siren. You can come next, but unfortunately, I think when girls get raped at school in the unisex toilet, that might get their attention. They're not interested. I don't know what to do. I sometimes feel like there's a wall of I don't know what, and people don't want to know until they know, because it affects their child, it affects their families. Even, I mean, not even in sports you can count on the parents to say no to this bullshit. Look around what's happening in the world. Everywhere, in women's prices, women's sports, women's anything. It's all men who win, who are in the leading positions, who speak for us. Men speak for us lesbians. As a lesbian, talking head, it's disgusting. So I don't know what will shake them. I have no idea. Sorry.
Yeah, I could give you one example. I have been playing golf for many years, and there's a big tournament here in Germany for lesbian and gay golfers. And then there's a smaller tournament, which is only a ladies' cup, so only lesbian women participating in the tournament. And since 2 or 3 or probably 4 years, we have one. Um, Trans-identified man. He starts in the woman category, and he also starts for people who do not know about golf. There are different starting points called tees from which people start. There's one for women with a shorter distance, and there's a starting point for men with a bit longer distance. And so this man starts from the woman tee and is also validated in the woman category. He plays very bad golf, but notwithstanding, I have complained, and I think that others think the same, that he should not start in the woman category And I know he is still a man also in his paper, so he has not changed his legal status. Notwithstanding, they allow him to start in this woman category. And we have a WhatsApp group. And if you just mentioned the case of Laya Thomas. So I took a video from Fox News where this Riley Gaines made her comments about Laya Thomas. And at the end of this report or this news, there was also mention of a golf tournament which was won by a man, also by a trans-identified man. And there was a series of tournament, and they decided, fortunately, and that was in America and the States, I think in California, they decided that only biological women may participate in future tournaments. And I was so happy about that information. And also, of course, a bit with little bit of bad humor and irony, I placed it in our WhatsApp group consisting of lesbian women. And of course, I was immediately called transphobe. And I was asked why I had placed this video, since it was also from Fox News, and Fox News, of course, is forbidden or verboten because it's supposed right wing. No, and okay, so I said, yeah, why I was posting this video there, and that it would is transphobe, and how could I? And I said, no, I'm totally happy because you have there someone fighting for women rights. And then there was one woman who asked really asked the question that why is this about women rights? And I almost dropped my cell phone because if someone is fighting and saying that only biological women may participate in tournaments, especially made for women, then that's a good idea. Why is this transphobe? And how could she not connect this information with feminism and women rights? As a lesbian woman. And I really was also the other comments that I received were just really, just dropped my cell phone. And at the end, there were women who were so upset that I put this topic in the WhatsApp group. Thus, they left the group because they couldn't stand my arguments and my comments. And blamed me for putting that into that WhatsApp group, since this group is supposedly only to talk about golf and making appointments for playing together. And at the end, the administrators of this WhatsApp group closed the WhatsApp and made it only available for the administrators. And they said they will reopen it when under the or subject to, they will put some code of conduct, a written code of conduct, and make that a condition or an obligation to obey or to obey or comply with. And they just reserve the right to kick out persons out of this WhatsApp group if they do not comply with this code of conduct. And yeah, and so the group now is closed and is only available for administrators. And yeah, but this question has this to do with feminism was really jaw dropping. And just to give an example um, about or what Rona said about feminist awareness here in Germany, it really needs to improve a lot.
I think Rona, you were next, and then Fruella.
Yes, I also want to show another aspect which I think is very, very important. The OECD had a report about the LGBTQ situation in Germany, I think 2 years ago. So Roisin asked about it, Roisin Michaud asked herself about it, and I asked myself also, why do they take Germany first? And I think they took Germany first because if they get Germany, if Germany has self-ID, all other European countries will be forced also to get self-ID. They will say, if Germany has self-ID, why don't you also have have self-ID? It's so progressive, and the Germans have especially progressive and liberal self-ID law. Why are you still so conservative and right-wing and don't apply this to your country? We can see this, or we have seen this during last week, that Austrian media made this argument, said, oh, Germany has self-ID now. Why don't the Austrians also start to have self-ID? Why are we so backwards, and why don't we imply it? So I think this is a big danger also. I always try to do this argument when I wrote to politicians or when I wrote text, that I said, please look at this problem. If Germany has self-ID, other countries can't, or other countries will have problems saying, we don't want it, it is dangerous. We will have to wait some years, and we will have to have some more victims, like in Spain, for example, until other countries can also say, no, we don't want it, because we saw that it doesn't work. So I think this aspect is very important. It's not only a German problem, it's a European problem. And the Warriors and also Roisin constantly report about the situation in the EU Parliament. They also have a campaign at the moment for these LGBTQ plus issues, and try to get the people in line. And still, there are still so many people who don't understand what this really means for women's rights, that it means destroying women's rights, and that it also means destroying the protection of children.
Oh my goodness, Rona. Thank you, but thank you for drawing out those really important connections. And I think that's I'm glad, you know, that we have so many women here from the US and from Europe also listening in, because you know we do all need to wake up. Fruella
Just,
is next, then
just,
Mira, and then Connie. And sorry, L Squad,
I
please
just,
come in.
I just wanted to add something quickly before you speak. Oshin is here, and I want to thank her. She was the one who did an interview with Rona and me the day when before the law was passed, and she's one who's really um, at the ball in this kind of dire situation in Europe. Thank you very much.
Indeed, she is. Hello and welcome, Roisin. And Fruella, please go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Al Squad. I missed you. It's been months. I think it was last autumn we spoke. I miss your voice, and I'm like Emmy. I occasionally pop into your German spaces, even though my German is like age 12, but my French is okay. Um, but yeah, what a fucking depressing week. And I'm glad that Ronald was before me because I'm in Sweden, so I can understand the whole manipulative psychology of, oh, everywhere else has got self ID, so why don't you? And Sweden was the last country in the Nordics to fall. So we had Germany with this fucking crazy law last week, I think. And then on Wednesday, Sweden fell, and I'm still coming to terms with it. I'm still bereft. It's not as aggressive. Um, I would say, as Germany in terms of choosing a baby's sex and deciding your gender at 14, but it's basically self ID. And I'm really horrified. And I came back from Oslo 3 or 4 weeks ago and I actually experienced what self ID was. And it's really not pleasant. So yeah, is there anywhere in Europe I can live? You've got this the Spanish with bestiality. You have Germany with the most insane laws, and now Sweden, where I live, and it's also it's a very sauna spa culture and a very open culture. So I think it's probably going to have an effect quite quickly when the law comes into effect on the 1st of June next year. So it's just, and there's very little support, very little public support, but it went through resoundingly. I think 294 to 263 to 94 or something like that, with a few abstentions. So I just, yeah, maybe I didn't keep my eye on the ball enough. I never felt a groundswell of support for this. Nobody I know, apart from a couple of TRAs, were pushing this. But the temperature check on normal people was not support, but yet we're stuck with it. And I'm not sure where I want to live anymore, really. So I know this is about Germany and it's bullshit, and I'm quite happy to go back to discussing that. But it was because it was days apart, and it affects us all. Um,
Ab- Absolutely. And I wanted to mention that as well because it's it's spreading like cancer in it. Sorry, didn't want to stop you, Frella.
no, it's okay. I think I was finished. I'm sure most people have seen the news. It's not quite as regressive as Germany, but yeah, it's probably the most similar to the Scottish GRR bill in that it's making it so much easier to self ID, a 20-minute appointment, 16. Um, yeah, I think I'm going to start to see there's non-binaries all over the place, and because I'm an immigrant, my let's just say my social circle is a lot smaller than it would be in London. So say I have 9 close friends, 3 of those have a so-called trans child or sibling. So that's 30%, and they are all girls. So the idea of making it easier, but um, still having rules around age of physical transition, to me, it's just like, that's a countdown to my birthday. And instead of a pony or a bike, it's a mastectomy. So it's it's everywhere, and I think people getting excited about Sweden being the first country to ban puberty blockers in 2022 really shouldn't expect that it was anything to do with a cultural or a cultural movement. It was purely based on medical and potential medical malpractice. So we're in a really bad place. And yeah, I kind of feel like Europe's not for me anymore. But also the US is definitely not for me because you don't have paid holidays. Um, and the southern hemisphere is fucking miles away, and this is also fucked. It's where can we go? We need a breakaway island.
Turf
Corella,
Island.
what's the island that that Napoleon ended up on? Santa Helena? Doesn't that technically belong to the UK?
I think there's loads of islands that technically belong to the UK.
Okay,
and that's
maybe
and that's yeah, and that's probably not that popular. Um,
maybe that's a subject for another space.
yeah,
And
I think take your pick.
I know originally El Squad and I had talked about this being maybe around 90 minutes. I see we're rapidly reaching that. So hopefully maybe if everyone can hang on at least for another maybe 15 minutes because we've got hands and more people who've requested speakers. So
Oh,
Absolutely.
and sorry, I didn't want to derail it into
No,
another
no, no, no,
meeting.
no, no, you didn't. And I am
Oh, okay.
easy. I am absolutely easy. I've got all the time of the world on my hands. So I just thought I cut it short for once because I do spaces that last 3, 4, even 5 hours. But I'm fine. If you hang on here, hang in here, that's fine. Um, next one is I think is Connie, you know?
I think it was Mira, then Connie.
Oh, right. Okay.
Mira, please go ahead. Hello.
Hello, I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Absolutely.
Yes, because we had some technical difficulties. I wasn't sure if it will be really working. So thank you for the space and for interest in what happened in our country. I would like to make several points on what the previous speakers had said and also add something. I don't know if you already spoke about it or not because I didn't. I was a bit late for this. I would like to mention something. There were several speeches at the hearing from the parties of the government who implemented the law. They were pushing for the law for many years. And there were also speeches from the opposition. And in the opposition, there was the Christian Democrats and the far right and the Sarah who opposed the law. I would like to point out a bad thing I noticed about all the speeches in regard to us. None of the speeches, even the speeches which were pro our side, which opposed the law, did not understand they didn't get the full scope of what they are saying. They still use the lingo. Even the far right, even the AFD, used words like sex identity. So there's no word for gender in German. I will say sex identity. And even the opposing side, there was some woman from the Christian Democrats who spoke against the law, and she mentioned suicidality. This is actually an argument from the trans activists, right? But even she mentioned suicidality, and then later, another woman who is from the governing party, from the FDP, from the government, pro-law, she also mentioned suicidality. So what we have here, we have no party at all that understands what they are talking about. Zero. And this is very dangerous because these parties, nobody likes the right, let's forget them, but even them, they don't get it. They don't get what they are saying. So why did they mention suicidality? So the woman from the Christian Democrats said something like, so we had previous transsexual in Zets, previous transsexual law, and it was actually an improvement because the trans, they were killing themselves, the poor people. But what you're doing now with the self-ID, it's not the way. Let's do something else. Let's do nothing too harshly. So, and the same I hear from all the other people from the opposing parties who don't want this law. I hear the same. Yes, of course, this poor small group, and they might kill themselves and so on. But the problem is that there shouldn't be such a law in the first place. I don't see this position spoken about enough, especially also, okay, spoken in our circles. But even then, you're often told, oh, you're an ultra, you're kind of extreme. These poor people, they should be able to change the legal sex. Okay, let's imagine someone wants to break into your house. What does he do? He tries to push open the door. He puts his foot in. What do you know what that foot is? That's this sexual law that we got here in the 1980s. That's it. Then he opens the door even more. What does he want? That's self-ID. What does he want next? Even more self-ID. Because what do you think? What is happening now? Look at what our trans activists, also the trans activists in our political parties and in our government saying. They are saying we got this law, but it is not enough. There is not enough self-ID for the children because there are some restrictions. For example, the family court has to intervene, but they likely want the child to decide completely free, right? So the parents shouldn't be saying anything at all. They don't want the exemption. There's an exemption of the kind of domestic right of, for example, if you own a sauna or some fitness facility, you can decide as the owner, okay, I don't want men inside. You can still decide that according to this law we have now. They don't want that. Now they come in, that's the next door is opening even more. Now they want surgery free for all. And please think of it, as Germany has dropped all the age restrictions. So we have some sort of stupid commission, and they say, we don't need the medical guidelines, right? We don't need the restrictions on the surgeries and on the hormones, the blockers, and whatever you want. Anyone should be getting them, no age restrictions. So our door is opening even more. So we now stand in front of the open door, and what comes next is our constitution. What they want to do? They want to enshrine the so-called sex identity into the law. And the constitution is like a holy grail. This is like after the bad Nazi time, we got constitution to make all people free, blah, blah, blah. And it's a big thing. Of course, it's a constitution. So our door stands open. What do we do all the time? What do I hear in the conversations all the time? Yes, of course. Children, yeah, maybe some. Maybe for some it is okay. Maybe for some it's not okay. And for the adults, same for the adults. Yes, but yeah, okay. Children is bad, but for adults, it's fine. So the adults will get the surgery. The adults should get the fictional legal sex. And this is our door. This is the door we are pushing open by ourselves. Because why? In the beginning, what I also often hear, yes, in the past it was less. Yeah, you might know some guy, they're actually quite nice, he's not doing anything bad, he's living his life, and who cares? Now, sometimes you hear a news story, a trans child, some faraway topic in the USA, right? Some abstract thing you hear on the news. Okay, but this is a luxury you can grant to yourself if you're not destroyed by the problem by yourself. So if it's not your GP husband who is masturbating into your own underwear and you don't know it, you can of course say, yes, I know some nice guy down the road. He's now a woman, or like he said, he's a trans woman. I don't have to anything against trans women. He's just like living his life and doesn't touch anyone's. Of course, because you don't see the problem and you're not involved and you don't understand the misogyny. And I think as long as our politicians, even those who say, yeah, we are against it, even if, as long as our politicians, and as long as our own movement, called our own side, does not understand that we should close the door completely, and we should have done so years ago, and this will mean to reject the so-called Transaktionsgesetz, to reject anything. The surgery, the legal fiction, the sex change, that's the single way inside our movement, and this is what we should be propagating to our political leaders. We should be now writing to the Christian Democrats. They never heard of this. So what did the trans activists do? You invent a group. They are not a group. They are not such a group. But they invented a group. They say we are like a dying out animal, like a very cute dying out animal. Everyone hates us, and we need special rights and protections. As long as you say there's a thing like trans, and you say, yes, but it's not polite to call them men or women, you accept them as an interest group, then they have the right to fight for their so-called rights as a group and to say their grievances. And as a group, they can say, okay, now we are a group of men. We call ourselves trans women. Now we claim to be women. We want to have the women's rights. And as long as we do not pull away the mask and say, you are not a group of endangered animals or kind of holy people, you are nobody. You are men. You're just men, and you're doing this for whatever reasons, for fetish, for internalized homophobia. I don't care. You're man, and you are not endangered species. And as long as we have this, like, somebody do it, somebody should be doing it or should be doing it, we cannot get far. And we had this topic already in the previous talk. I also have a sort of criticism for the thought that is prevailing in our society. Yes, children, but adults should be able to do anything what they want. I don't want to tell adults what to do. Children, leave the children alone, but if they want to cut off the dick, cut off the dick. I think this is wrong, because by this we deliver a group of mentally unstable people in the open arms of Dr. Mengeles. And I don't care if he's mentally disturbed guy or whatever. I don't think we should be living in a society where some sick doctor can get rich on removing his dick or a woman's healthy breast. I don't care how old they are. They also can be mentally kind of challenged. They might have some Down syndrome. They might have some psychological problem. And when we say we don't care what the adults are doing, we forget that somebody is doing it to them. We allow somebody to remove their healthy body parts and make business out of them. And I think as long as our movement doesn't close the door on this terrible activism, we will be going nowhere. And we should all be saying there's no such a thing as trans, there's no such a thing as cis, there is no gender. That's our opening line. And the moment you do this, you close the door and you have pulled away the mask. Because if they can be claiming to be a protected group, they cannot claim to have your rights. Sorry for a long speech. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mira. Very, very impassioned, and you bring up some really excellent points. And lovely to hear you for the first time coming across you here on Twitter. So let's see. Connie was next, and then Roisin. Connie, please go ahead. Hello.
Yes, hello everybody. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Perfectly.
Wonderful. Good evening, y'all. I wanted to come back to what Elsquat said earlier when someone asked her when the German population will wake up or how many of German citizens are actually aware. And she said maybe if a woman gets raped, that's when they will wake up. And I hope it'll be a bit earlier. You have to understand the law comes into force in August, and then you can go to the registry office and claim legal status and declare your felt gender, and that then will take 3 months. So the whole thing is finally starting, or we will see the first cases in November at the earliest. And I think there is a wave of TRAs swarming the registry offices. I'm quite sure of that because a lot of them have been holding back because the former process was so, there were many hurdles, and they had to have psychiatric, what's the word for Gutachten again?
Approval?
Yeah, approval, and they had to see a real psychiatrist or psychotherapist, and had to live in the assumed gender for a while, and it was all a bit more complicated and of course annoying for them. So what I hope for is the Staniland question. What I hope for is when they start swarming, not necessarily public restrooms, because as long as there is a stall, many women still feel kind of safe, I dare say. But everywhere where a woman has to get publicly naked, like public swimming pools and the showers, especially, and especially when children are present and some men walks in a half or maybe even fully aroused. Um, we all, or we sometimes talk about the famous brawls of Irish mummies, and I think German mothers can get just as angry. In all fairness, I think every mother will in that kind of situation. And then when these women go and seek the pool attendant and complain, and he or she is going to tell them that that is perfectly okay and that they can even get fined if they complain, I think that's when the population will wake up. At least that's what I hope. But that'll take some time, at least a year before the first cases. Then the other question is how the media will cover it. But I think because right now it has remained quite silent or in favor of the law. But when these cases are going to happen, and I'm sure they will, that's another thing. And I think that is when most of the people hopefully will wake up to what is happening. Thank you.
Thank you, and lovely to hear from you, and lovely to meet you. Roisin, please go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's been a rough week. I've just clicked on Word Rebel's graph here. I'm just looking at the results of who voted for what. Well, I suppose it doesn't really matter now, does it? Um, the only thing I wanted to say is that, you know, like, I know emotions are high this week. I met a Swedish friend yesterday who was really, really upset for very intensely upset for a couple of days. And was it yesterday the Swedish vote happened? Oh, I can't remember. And Germany earlier in the week, I can't remember, but everyone's very upset. And I just contrast it with how it felt finding out that my country, Ireland, and the country that I live in, Belgium, had already done this, past self ID, a couple of years before anyone was even conscious of it. And finding out that this had been passed, it's a very different experience to right now when we're all following closely, live tweeting outside government buildings. Extremely different scenario, and it only kind of gives me hope that, I mean, I know when it's your country, it doesn't feel very hopeful, but when I see it on a global level, you see that, you know, this has not gone unnoticed, it has not gone uncommented upon, it has not gone unfought. Everyone's been aware of it, we've been tracking it, we've been talking about it, we're talking about it now. It's been in the press a lot. You know, the Swedish vote, what I found very, very interesting was that Sweden has this sort of nightmare of a coalition government that had a lot of right wingers in it, and it shouldn't have been so easy to pass it. And there were some deals made behind the scenes or whatever to make sure that it got through. And what I noticed was, I wrote about it yesterday, there was a pseudo safeguard included in the Swedish self ID law, which requires a diagnosis, but it's a fake like it's a fake safeguard, because it just means that somebody who wants to apply for self ID has to go to any kind of a medical practitioner and do the affirming approach and say, yep, I'm trans, and they will give them a gender cert, and then they go and do it. So it's just one extra annoying step, and it makes it look like it allowed the right wing to say, yeah, look at the safeguards or the guarantees of it, whatever, the concessions that we squeezed out of them, when it's not really in fact. So, but what that tells you is things have changed, in that um we're sort of edging back to normality, in that sense that there had to be at least a show of a safeguard. Or, first of all, the fact that we're going to have a massive sweep of right-wing governments across Europe, like the fact that even the people in power in the EU are saying this is going to be an absolute right-wing washout, tells you that it's going to be a major washout. Like, and I'm not saying that I'm happy about that, but it's going to be extreme. So we're going to get more governments like this. I think it's going to be harder and harder for them to um it's going to be harder and harder for like these green coalition builders or stopgap coalition minority parties to enforce this fucking insanity on majority right wing or center right or moderate or centrist parties. So I think we're at the peak now, and now it's going to maybe turn around, and we're going to not get it's going to change from now on. That's what I think. And I just, another point I wanted to, oh yeah, and this is one of the biggest signs for me that something has changed, is that ILGA Europe, who have been so, like, we cannot understate how important ILGA Europe have been in all of these laws from the very beginning, starting from about 2007, 2008. ILGA have been drafting these laws, writing the strategies on behalf of minor NGOs all over Europe. They've been lobbying the Council of Europe. They've been doing everything they can. They're so vital and pivotal in this. And when Sweden got this fake safeguard, a few years ago, the first thing ILGA would have done would have been to get up on a fucking soapbox and start screaming their heads off about it was a breach of human rights. They didn't even mention it. They barely alluded to it in one tweet that they wrote about. I think it was on Instagram. I can't remember where it was. Yeah, I think it was on Twitter. On Twitter. Whereas in the past, they would have been bragging for ages and interviewing all the people. Like, I saw, like, back when Malta passed self ID, there was all this like drama around it, and media around it, and all these different releases and interviews with people and graphics and fact sheets and. And now they're just like, well done, Sweden did it. It's not the absolute best we could hope for, but we're very, very happy about it, because they see the writing on the wall as well. They see that the days are over of sneaking this shit in by the back door. And somebody else was saying earlier on that you didn't see big support in the public. There never has been. That's something that we really, really need to remember. There never has been any popular support for any of this, because this entire movement was built on changing the law and hoping the culture will follow. And that worked for many things in the past. It didn't work for this, and nobody will ever accept this. So that was a big sign for me that ILGA are not bragging about it, because it was funny because they should have been really complaining and crying about it on Twitter, but they didn't. And they should, like, because they know that this is probably the last. I think the Swedish one is probably the last they're going to get. Like, what else are they going to get? I mean, I know they're working hard in Eastern Europe. I think this is the last one. France are not going to go for it. Doha Muto and Marguerite Stern released this book called Transmania. They've just gone to #1 on Amazon in all book sales in France. This is, like, I don't think there's going to be any more. Like, Germany was the big one. I think they've just said to themselves, okay, we've achieved as much as we're going to achieve with this. Everything after this is just going to be a bonus. I think we're on the other side. We've passed the dark side of the moon, and we're coming back to Earth, is what I want to say. Another thing I wanted to say was about somebody made a comment about, I thought Sweden had backtracked on the medical stuff, but here we are with the self ID. And I want to just make the point that this very famous Denton's document, as it's known, which was not how people often describe the Denton's document as something that sort of instructed people on how to get self-ID passed. It was never that. It's not that at all. The Denton's document was the Thomson Reuters Foundation has a network of lawyers who's part of its pro bono ESG um, charity sort of side, offer free legal advice to small NGOs. And what they did was they were contacted by Iglio, which is basically ILGA's baby brother in Brussels, and they were asked, "Can you do a study for us?" And they asked and commissioned pro bono, "Do a study for us on what's the best ways to get self ID passed in Europe." So all the Denton's document was these lawyers saying, "Okay, well they did this here and they did that there." So they just described what happened. It wasn't that they were like saying this is how we plan to do it. People often describe this Denton's document as some sort of nefarious blueprint. It wasn't. They just described what they did. And one of the things that they described was they said what you should really, really do, what's worked most successfully, is you need to really decouple the medical part from the administrative part, because people really get upset when they think about medical stuff. They don't get upset about it when they think it's about just changing your name or your F to M or your M to F. So, and what's important about that is that the old model of transsexual model of legal gender recognition as it existed before self ID was born in like 2009, 2010, that old model said that basically included both in it. So you would go to a psychiatrist, you would get your diagnosis, and that piece of paper that gave your diagnosis gave you access to both the ability to go to the municipality or whatever and get your M to F or F to M, and it also allowed you to go to your surgeon and get the surgery and the hormones that you wanted. So it fulfilled both those roles. So when people started campaigning for self ID, it was clear that people got a little bit the ick about this idea that you would be able to make all these drastic changes. So the Denton's document outlined that what worked really well for Denmark in particular and Malta and Ireland was that they decoupled completely the administrative from the health part, from the medical part. And then they did that and it was successful because it was easier to sell to the public, oh, it's just a bit of a name change on a piece of paper, why do you care, as opposed to, oh, it's a name change and chop the dick off, etc., etc. So they did that, and then Denton said it was a huge success. However, somebody from a University of Leeds or somewhere in the UK did a follow-up study then, some TRA, to track how trans people are getting on in these countries where they passed self-ID years ago, and they found that this decoupling of the medical from the administrative was a huge problem, because people found that they were getting their M to F or the F to M on a piece of paper, but they couldn't do anything with it because they never really cared that much about the bit of paper. What they wanted was legitimacy and the full transition and what would have come with the previous type, the gate kept type of transition. I hope people are following me here, but what would have previously had both elements in it now had been decoupled, and so what they found themselves with was they were only one. The way they described it in this study was they were trans on paper only, and it gave them no right to medical treatments. That would be a whole other thing. They still had to get a diagnosis. So now they're trying to sort of put them back together. And so what happened with the Swedish vote the other day, not many people noticed this, but they had two bills. They had the self-ID bill, which was literally the administrative part, M to F on your piece of paper, and they had a second part, which was the what comes under the rubric of transsexual surgery from now on. And so they rejigged the definition of transsexual surgery from male to female or female to male to mean you don't have to include a piece of text that says you don't have to make it look like the opposite genitals at all. Basically, do what you want. Basically, opening the door to all kinds of surgeries. So we can see now that there's like a pivotal change also happening within the trans activist movement, which is that they fought to decouple them because they were desperate to get these, just like, give us the legitimacy of having our passports and birth certs changed, to realizing that all that gave them was this M to F on paper, F to M. And I said this to Rona the other day in our discussion, and Rona was a bit skeptical, rightly so. But I don't think a lot of these men, especially, want self ID. I think they want to say fuck you to women. They want to legitimize their fetish, they are most of the time part-time cross-dressers, so they're not really in the business of changing their entire lives. You know, most of these are transvestites of old. I think the best analogy I can come up with is like all the gay people who voted for gay marriage without ever having a plan to get gay married. I think a lot of people who consider themselves trans, especially the men, they're part-time crossdresser. They're like this Tessa Marcus Ganzaher. He's kept his dick. Maybe he's a part-time crossdresser. They don't want to lose the privilege of being male. What they want to do is just stick it to women and say fuck you, and they will go into our spaces and we will never challenge them on whether they have any kind of a certificate or not. But anyway, just to go back to the decoupling. So the decoupling of the medical and the administrative has turned out to be a bit of a headache for the trans rights movement. But I think we've reached a moment now where they know they've pushed too far, they've asked for too much. They know the tide is completely turned. I can't see what country, I don't see who could possibly be next. But I was just trying to explain why it could be the case that Sweden would reject the medical and yet go ahead with the administrative, and that was because a very concerted effort was made to decouple these things, and it was described in the Denton's document. And now they're trying to put things back together, but they can't put things back together because everyone's woken up to what's going on, and they won't get away with it anymore. You know, so we can at least take a bit of uh, um, solace in that I don't think it's ever going to be as bad as it was. We've reached the peak and we're rolling down the other side of the roller coaster right now, and things are going to get better. In terms of undoing it, I have no idea how that's going to be done. But again, and I've said this now for quite a while, in all of these countries, I I've spent months in the Facebook groups of these men, transvestites, transsexuals. They do not care about self ID. They do not care about birth certs. They do not care about passports. What they care about is being able to walk into women's spaces and do whatever they want, whenever they want, and be forced to treat us as women. And they will never have to reveal to us whether they've had their dicks cut off, their balls cut off, or if they've changed their certificates. And we will never be able to ask them. And all these forced outing laws are part of that. That you should never be able to. It would be against the law for us to find out if a man in our space has, and this was one of the reasons, like, why did they get rid of all of the gatekeeping? In the past, the gatekeeping was intended to only trans gay men and to keep the fetishists out. All the fetishists faked being gay men in order to get what they wanted. But most of these men, they're neither gay nor are they dysphoric. They want to keep their dicks. They want to go out as winners sometimes. It helps them let off steam. They will go into our spaces. They have no plans on losing the M on their passport, and we have no way of ever calling them out on it. So, as other people in here have said, this is a men's rights movement through and through. It's been a disgusting piece of subterfuge. We know what's going on. What happens next, I do not know, but we can be happy about what's happening in France right now, at least, and maybe soon L Squad and Emmy, we could try and organize to get the girls from France as well, and maybe have a bit of discussion with them because they've had some success at least. Thanks. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you
Roisin,
so much.
thank, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to jump in briefly and say that was really so informative, and I absolutely love the idea of trying to catch up with the women in France, and also I just sort of accidentally tripped into a bunch of Spanish turfs recently because there's a woman whose handle goes partially by, I think, her son's name in Madrid, or in the outskirts of Madrid, whose son, I think, went through transition, was incredibly unhappy, and if I remember the story correctly, ended his life on some train tracks. And she, of course, this has upended her life, and she's become very devoted to speaking against, the ideology and so forth. And when I realized that Kelly J. Keane was going to be doing an event in Madrid next month, I DM'd her because we had connected, and So all of a sudden, you know, she was like, no, I had no idea. How do I get tickets, et cetera, et cetera. So I think also, yeah, if we can also maybe try in a separate space from the French one, to link up with any Spanish turfs out there. I think whatever support we can lend to each other, I think is great, because otherwise it just feels so isolating and demoralizing. And I know in the US today we're all reeling, even though we knew it was coming, from a decision on girls in sports, this famous Title IX that we have here. So I won't go into that. I don't want to derail things. And actually, I have one or two questions to raise if they don't come up from our other speakers. But in terms of order, we've got Pija next, then Betty, and Connie. I see your hand is still up, and that's I just just do a thumbs up or thumbs down or DM me or whatever. If you wanted to speak again, or if it's just that your hand is still up. So Pija, please go ahead. Okay, thanks, Connie. Pija, please go ahead.
Hi, it's so lovely to see everyone. Every time we have any kind of international space, it just like fills my cup. It runneth over with it, and I love it. I actually had a question so that I can understand a little better because it's been mentioned that everything's going, the pendulum is swinging back, and in Europe, the governments are going to end up going more right or far right or whatever. So my question is, so that I understand, how does that work if, let's say, tomorrow or like in a year, whatever, they say, okay, yeah, you're right, whether it's a new government or whatever, how easy is it to, or hard is it to repeal everything that they've been doing? I'm really interested to know, like, if everybody in Germany came out and protested and said this law is bullshit or whatever, how long is the actual process of getting rid of how the laws are made or whatever? So that was mainly my question.
Could I just jump in there? Sorry, I didn't have my hand up, but just because to answer that, PJ, I don't know is the answer, but what I'm worried about, this is my main concern, is that we all have been saying that it's going to be very difficult for people to backtrack. One thing is repealing laws, which takes years, like it takes a long time to get a rule off the books, and people are also going to find it very difficult to back down. So what I'm worried is that people will let go of the gender medicine, especially the pediatric medicine, and hold on to the autogynephile self determination, because they'll say, okay, we were wrong about that, we were wrong, but we weren't wrong about all of it. And I think people will give in on the child transition, and they won't give in on the women's rights part, because I think that we've all seen how strongly, how emotional the reaction to, we use it ourselves as one of the biggest talking points, is like childhood transition is like like if you had to choose between the most horrific, is it childhood transition or the destruction of women's rights? I think children's stories pull at people's heartstrings more strongly, and I think that rather than a full back down that we would all love to see, I think we're only going to get half one. We're going to get half walk back, and that walk back will be pediatric transition, and it won't be the part of the destruction of women's rights, and that's what worries me.
I have one more question. Thank you for answering that. Do we know how many lawmakers um, have trans kids or family members, or are we just assuming majority of them these days on both sides? Because it seems like I don't think there's really anyone left who hasn't been affected by this, right? And it reminds me of a story years ago before I peaked, probably 6, 7 years ago. My nephew was dating a girl who, on a weekly basis, was a girl or a boy, and was coming off of tea on a regular basis. And back then, I didn't have any idea what that meant. And that sticks with me almost every day. She was 16 through 18, off and on tea. So I think you're right about the kids, but yeah, I was just wondering, once, okay, so we right the ship, how long does that take? That was really my question. Thank you so much for the space.
I would let Rona answer because I think she knows something about that. Thank you.
No, I don't really have any idea how long this will last, but my idea is not how many of these people, how many of these MPs have so-called trans childs. My idea is how many of these men wear the underwear of their wives. So my dog is barking. And I think this is more interesting because a lot of these men who are in the European Parliament and also in the parliaments in Europe, I think they are all secretly interested in these fetishes. They all watch porn and they all somehow go in the direction of sissy porn. And a lot of them we learned from Genevieve Gluck, for example, especially men in leading positions or in very manly positions like to cross-dress in private. And so my idea is that a lot of them do it and do it in private. And so yeah, somehow they don't really want to work against it because they also think this is fine. This is a kind of tolerance. And yeah, they also escalated in porn and something like this. And so they think this is also good for us. And for the women, I think for the women, empathy thing is very important. And also a recurring argument is also that it is a minority group. And I think it was very important what Mira brought, because we have to think about it. No, it's men. It's mostly men. Women who are supporting it, especially if they have trans children, so-called children. But I think it's a men's rights movement, and men are fueling it. And we have a problem with men watching porn and escalating in deviant fetishes. So I think a really important step would be to do something against porn and also against prostitution in Europe and work on porn being abolished, because porn fuels this whole thing.
Yes, thank you, Rana. Just a quick message from here. Men are allowed to listen as long as they behave. And this is a women's space. Women talk to each other. You can see that there are a lot of women talking, and there are probably more who want to talk. So, no, guys, it's not your platform. You may listen, but behave yourselves. No filthy comments under the space. Thank you very much. Okay, who's the next one? I think Betty,
Yes.
Connie, and who's that? Women exist exactly.
Hello. Oh, my lovelies, you've managed to do almost the impossible. You've actually made me grateful for Brexit. A bit of gallows humour there. Just like I never thought I'd be grateful for Brexit, but you've managed it. Oh, it's such a shit show, isn't it? But yes, I just wanted to say, oh, I listened to what Roisin said and I really hope, and she's well more on the pulse of it than possibly anybody else I know. But I really do hope that this is the darkest hour before the dawn, and things start changing for the better. It's hopefully this is the peak of it and things will start going. But yes, they've got their way. Unfortunately, that's what happens in a democracy. And it's all been done with sleight of hand and kids committing suicide and just all the poor dears. But unfortunately, we're going to have to live with the ramifications of these rules and everything. But things that change can be changed back. It's not easy, but I think. But I just wanted to just come up and give you all you guys some bit of love and hope, and support and through in Sweden and German turfs over there. I mean, that's all you really wanted to say. But it's definitely just a little bit of gallows humor. I promise you, not Schadenfreude, but lots and lots of love. And yeah, we can change it. If they can change it, we can change it. You know, it would have seemed what they've managed to do would have seemed impossible. So if they can do it, we can do it, and we can do it better, as the song used to go. That's all I wanted to say, lovelies. But a great space, and I always feel smarter when I'm in here. And it's one of the great things about this thing is that I'm spending Friday night in a room with really, really intelligent, interesting women. And as much as I love my pals, I don't know if I would get this standard of conversation down the pub. So I just wanted to say that. But all the love to you.
Oops, my finger slipped. I'm sorry. Thanks, Betty. And I can tell you, I've got my passport now. Fucking exit. Um, I've got my passport now, and will join you in England at some point. So, yeah, I could travel backwards and forwards, and now I can't. I needed a passport. I couldn't believe it. So, sorry. Uh, I I shut up now. I think it's Connie now.
No, I put my hand down, but there's a glitch as always.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Thanks, Connie. So then women exist?
Hello. It's just lovely to hear all of you over there. I just wanted to say I don't want to take much of your time because I know this is about what's happening in Germany, and I'm so sorry about that. You guys all know we had our self ID come in basically in 2017, and it's just a crap show since then. The only thing I wanted to mention was because I'm so focused on language and because I think this is a language issue, I like to talk about this in terms of not men's rights movement, not a men's rights movement, but a men's privileges movement, because it's not they aren't rights that they want. They're not what we would call a universal right. They have nothing to do with universal. It's just privileges. They just want to do what they want to do, and they don't want any women to say no, or they want to shove it in our faces if we do say no, because this is about power and control. It's just the same old stuff that women in domestic violence situations have been dealing with forever. It's power and control. And I think, and I want more than anything to see in the future, before I die, I want to see a party of women, an international party of women, that that has an international standing, um, so we can stop this, because it's everywhere. It doesn't matter if it's left or right. The control of women and the restriction and oppression of women just doesn't stop, no matter who is in charge. Um, so good on you, all of you. And boy, I hope Roisin is right. That sounds very encouraging. I was really, really pleased to hear that. Take care.
Thank you. Women exist, and you make some great points there, especially on the language issue, because it's so much of the essence of all of this, isn't it? They take our words, and then you just skin walk right into women's restrooms and changing rooms and sports and just have everything. Why don't you? And L Squad, I think you just put up your hand briefly, and I have two questions then. So please go ahead.
Yeah, you don't have to stop when I put up my hand. I'm trying to be disciplined and not talk over everybody. I'm so full of energy. Well, anyway, women exist. I would be interested. What's your situation in Canada now? I know it has been dire 5 months ago. Have you kind of settled in, or is it getting worse by the minute?
Nothing has changed other than they keep pushing further. I mean, we've got one party, one Pierre Poilievre, who has a potential to get in the next election. And he has said that he thinks female sports and female spaces should be for females. However, even having said that, there is no willingness to call a man a man. There's no willingness for what women and children need, to actually say it outright. And I think until we can have any, politicians standing up and saying it outright, politicians who have a chance, um, able to say, no, you're free to use the language that represents reality. you know, can you believe we're having this conversation? Oh, sometimes I hear myself say things, and I just shocked. Yeah, until we have that, we don't have a chance. I mean, we still have the CBC putting out absolute and utter propaganda, absolute lies about puberty blockers, about quote transition, and how safe it is. it, it's not. We're not getting through the way the turfs did in the UK yet, but I have hope. We've got Megan Murphy speaking down here next month with Julie Bindel in Victoria, and I look forward to that. And then there is a plan for Kelly J. Keane to come to Canada this year, so that is very promising. So we're going to keep plugging away, but we need to keep in touch politically around the world. The way this is so great, this kind of space is so great, and I keep thinking, I don't know how many of you think this, but I keep thinking about learning about the past and how humans, people got their right to vote, and how things were changed, and learning about how history in terms of the men who made the changes. Meanwhile, knowing that women were in salons, women were talking together, women were affecting change every way they could, and that's what we're doing. We're just going to make it a lot bolder, I hope.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, I am considering picking up the workspaces on Fridays once a month. Um, I think I could possibly do that. I will try. Emmy, you had a question.
Yes. So actually, just a couple of things really quickly. First, I just wanted to draw everyone's attention to some really wonderful links that have been shared in the Up in the Nest or the Jumbotron, depending on how you refer to it, and also down in the Purple Pill. Emily Wilding, the wonderful Wamando, had DM'd me in the background, suggesting that we share the story of this very loving mother in Spain who lost her son to this, the really awful sides of this ideology. And so that's in the Nest, and it's also in the Pill. And in terms of positive signs, shall we say, that maybe things are changing. Yesterday, I almost did a kind of a spit take when I saw that the opinion writer and pretty erudite guy all around, although I know a lot of people have very strong feelings about him one way or the other, David Brooks, of the New York Times, he did a piece basically lauding the author of the Cass report and saying that she had been very thoughtful and very measured and very caring in how she put together this study and this document. And I think the fact, whether you like him or you find him a blowhard or you feel somewhere in between about him, um, I'm probably on the in between side. I admire his brain and his erudition and all of that. I think, in his personal life, he's been a bit messy or publicly private, whatever you want to call it. But I guess also all of our lives can be a bit messy. So who am I to cast the first stone? But anyway, the point is, I think the fact that the New York Times actually allowed him to write this piece. I mean, that they actually went ahead and published it. Of course, he could write it. Whether or not they would publish it is another thing. But I think that's, again, I think maybe a crack in the facade. The only thing with the New York Times, the way they seem to do it is they take one step where you think like, ah, we're moving forward on this. People are waking up, they're getting it. And then 2 days later, after they publish something like that, there'll be something else that's completely, pro-trans kids and, suicidality, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm waiting to see what'll come out maybe in this weekend's paper. But still, it was generally very good, except for about 3 paragraphs in where he used the phrase assigned female at birth, assigned male at birth. And a lot of people, I have to tell you, the thing about this always is looking at what the comments are and what gets highly rated. And immediately everybody was all over that. Like, what kind of BS is this? Nobody's assigned anything. So that makes me a little bit hopeful. Okay, so now enough waffling. The two questions that I had, one is, and I know it's really silly. It's like hoping for Santa Claus to come down the chimney and give us like really big presents, like that bicycle we always wanted or whatever on Christmas Day. But the first question I was going to ask to anyone in the German sphere here, to educate us a bit about, culture there, is there the equivalent of some kind of a J.K. Rowling figure in your public society, whether it's a celebrity or an author or whatever, who would, stand up and put this kind of umbrella over people the way she just did, for example, with the Scottish hate crime law? And also my other question then, and I'll put this maybe as kind of a closing question, if there aren't other women who want to continue the conversation or whatever. I mean, I'm happy to go either way. But the other question I'm sure a lot of us in the US and Canada and other parts of Europe are feeling is, what can we do to support you? I know there's no magic bullet for this, but I would guess maybe, God forbid, if something does happen, if there's an incident where a girl is assaulted in a school or something, like we all really tried to rally around Sal Grover last week or the week before. I'm losing track of time, but when she was going into court to get her trending on Twitter and so forth. And I know that sometimes that feels a bit flimsy, like, oh, big keyboard warriors, all of you. But I think, for the person involved, like for Amy Ham, I think it must give their heart some degree of support and lift to know that women around the world and people, men too, are supporting them. So if there's any solutions for what we can do, if not right now, in the future, if you all are doing uh, events or protests or whatever, let us know. So those are my two questions. Is there a German J.K. Rowling, and what can we all do to
No.
support?
Number one, no. I love J.K. Rowling, and I wish we had one. I don't know if everybody agrees, but well, we've got the women who are in the limelight because they get attacked, so that would be Rona and Marie. But a person like J.K. Rowling, with money, honestly, I mean, what saves her is her money because she can't be attacked because she's got the means to defend herself. We haven't got that. So, no, to number one. Um, two, you've done a lot. I mean, it's heartwarming. I said that before, like warriors, they're here now. I mentioned you before because you came back to me after an hour after I was panicking on that Tuesday because I thought, oh my God, and I had to work nights, mind you. So I was trying to get some sleep in during that week, and I'm still recovering from it. But just the thought that women all around the globe actually say, "Oh, we're thinking about coming to you. We can't make it. I'm so sorry." But that warmed my heart. Thank you so much, because I know you can't come, and of course you can't travel to join us, but um, uh, writing nice messages, supporting us with your words, distributing our links, sharing our YouTube channels, and all that stuff really, really helps to feel we're not alone, we're not forgotten. And that really, to me, it means the world. And I think I can speak for all my German sisters in this respect. Thank you very much, Sarin.
Yeah, also we don't have a J.K. Rowling, as Scott said, and unfortunately we have some prominent women like showmasters and speakers, news speakers, and also comedians. But the whole media is pro-trans, and there's especially one woman. Her name is Dunya Hayali. She's at least a couple of years ago, she declared herself as being a lesbian, and was seen hand in hand with her girlfriend then in public, and also in magazines and so. And now she denies being a lesbian, and has said that she's not a lesbian, but this is called pansapiosexual. So she has also acquired um, an, an identity, and has just dropped her being lesbian. And there's also a really renowned comedian, Maren Kreumann, who is also in favor of gender ideology. And then there's another two talk masters, Anne Will, who is also in favor of gender ideology, and another Bettina Böttinger, who is also in favor of gender ideologies. So all the women that probably could have done something in favor of other lesbians, they just don't do anything, and that's because the media is completely woke left leaning, and that has followed all the reporting from the very beginning was all in favor of gender ideology. There is, I think, in the media, no one can open their mouths, because they will probably lose their jobs, and that will ruin their careers. So you can, for the moment, you cannot expect anything from that side.
No, very grim indeed. I'm really sorry to hear that, but I'm sure many would say, I guess, we can't be waiting for Santa Claus to come down the chimney and save us, right? We've got to, or J.K. Rowling in the sense we've got to save ourselves. And I know from so many women who've shown up here, I see Australia's in the house too. I don't know what time it is over there. Don't get me started on that question, but happy that you've joined us too. The folks who I've seen in here from Australia. I guess L Squad, do we shall we I guess say good night, and we'll continue the conversation.
Yes, I would say that that's a good idea, though Australia just came to the group. Well, it's always a problem finding a good time for everybody on the globe because, I mean, yeah, some of us just wake up and others need to go to bed, so it's a bit difficult. But I would say let's call it a night, a day, or an afternoon, and do the next space Friday um, soon. And maybe if you want, because I think I used to do it with Spiky, but I think she's a bit withdrawn at the moment. And so, Emmy, if you would like to join me as a co-host for the English-speaking world, you're very welcome. Let's talk about it. Find a Friday where we both can open a space, and then we'll be back. What about that?
That sounds really lovely. I would be happy to do that. And yeah, I think certainly, as was suggested, it'll be great if we can link up with our French sisters. There's a wonderful video going around that Pija shared, and then that I retweeted, that from TV. I don't even know how recently it was done, but boy, oh boy, those three women in there, they were not yielding an inch. And the poor male host looked like he was just hoping somebody would throw him a life vest or something. So yeah, it would be wonderful to see what they have to say also. But I'd be happy to join you. And if Spiky is listening to this afterwards, and you know she wants to resume her co-host spot, also, I'm happy
Yeah,
to be there in with her. But thank you so much, Al Squad. Thank you to
yeah,
Sarin and Word Rebel for all the wonderful links you shared. Rona, not Ronald. Mira, everyone in Germany, Roshin, thank you for sharing so much of your knowledge of all of this complex legislation and everything. It's been really wonderful to inform ourselves better of what's going on across the sea, because it may be coming or intensifying in our countries in any day now, if it isn't already. So thank you so much for all of that. And I hope everyone has a good evening or a good day ahead and a good weekend ahead. Thank you so much for joining us.
yeah. Thanks. You have said more or less everything I wanted to say. Thank you a lot for one inviting me. Thanks for being my co-host and you know getting the English-speaking world to listen to us. Um, and thanks for my co-host Sarin. And of course, I invited Saren, Word Rebel, and Rona because I didn't want to be alone. And they came. And I'm so very happy and so grateful, even if you didn't speak. But it was wonderful that you came to support me because I was a bit worried that I couldn't answer every question. So you were here, you did your job, you shared your wisdom. Thank you so much. Um, okay, this space. I should have said that in the beginning. I say it now. This space has been recorded. You probably saw that, and well, yeah, I think I made it clear to everybody. So I will um, put this space on my YouTube channel, and I will delete this one on Twitter, just so you know, because I think it is safer it's on the YouTube channel than here, because all your icons will show on the recording on Twitter. So as soon as I've got the um, document downloaded, I will um, get rid of this one, and you will find a YouTube link to my channel where you can watch it afterwards, okay, or listen to it afterwards. Just so you know, I think that's a bit safer than having it on X. Uh, so, if any of you who has been speaking thinks, okay, oh God, I'm a bit nervous about what I said, give me write a DM, and I will cut the bit out that you are worried about. I hope that won't happen because it's a lot of work, to be honest, but you can do that. For the English-speaking folks around, yes, it's German channel, but there is English content. So please go to my um, go to my YouTube channel, Elsquot Berlin, and try to find the English spaces that have been recorded. There's one with Kelly J. Keane and Donna Stottier before we went to Vienna. That's a quite nice one as well. And I think I might actually, I've got such brilliant women here in Germany who come to my spaces frequently, and they might actually be open to do a space or a podcast about the oh, what's it called? No, um, oh God, CAS report. Um, Maybe we can even do it in English so that you can listen to it. We will do it in German. Two women in medical profession are reading it now, and they are um, uh, open for doing a proper podcast on that issue. but maybe I can learn a bit more and do subtitles in English. Well, let's see. It's a work in progress. Thanks for your support. Um, Thanks for coming to the spaces. Thanks for being here, patiently listening and asking questions. Please, if you've got any questions after the space, just drop a DM and we will answer them in the next space. Okay? Um, so, uh, yeah, I think that's it. I send you to back to your real life. Have a good night. Have a good day. Um, have a don't get angry. Don't get sad. Just occasionally, and then find a friend who supports you and says, it's going on. We will go on, and we won't back off. We
And
can't afford to back off.
before you go,
Yes.
can I just say thank you so much, Elsquat, for your relentless campaigning, space hosting, for the German turbines, now internationally as well. And this is such an important topic. And I also want to say, Emmy, you've been a brilliant co-host. I haven't come across you before. Thank you for the wonderful work this evening, as well as Tsarin, of course. And thank you for giving us all this very informative space. And I'm looking forward to another one. Good night, everybody.
Oh, Connie, you made me blush. Um, Thank you. Oh, I hope we will meet in real life soon. We have to manage. Okay, we're two of we hardly exist anymore. We're two lesbians, like uh, who are clearly women, clearly lesbians, and in kind of male dresses. And so we are called butches. I don't go with that term for myself, but
We don't get
anyway.
aroused by wearing male clothes. I would like to make that very clear.
Well, anyway, so we are called butchers, and as I said, I don't like that word for myself, but anyway, I get read as one. So, well, anyway, I stand by my butch friends anytime. So, good night, sweethearts. Thanks for having been here. And Emmy, I can only say, yes, of course, you are a brilliant co-host. Thank you so much. About Sarin, I know that because she's my co-host in the German um, spaces quite often, so I knew what I was getting into with her. No, lovely. Thank you. Thank you, Sarin, for always being here and supporting me. Good night and stay brave. We need it. Bye.